Most people want one thing, a way out of the job they hate, out of the city that feels too small, out of the version of themselves that isn't working. Steve Harvey wanted a way out too, and he found it. But here's the thing, nobody tells you about his story, the achievement everyone points to. The game show, the suits, the surveys, that's not it. That's not the move. The real move happened decades before Family Feud. In parking lots, in gas station bathrooms, in a Ford that doubled as a bedroom. Steve Harvey didn't just build a career, he built a system for converting nothing into everything, and almost nobody noticed how he did it. This is that story. Here's where most people get the Steve Harvey story wrong. They start in 2010. New host, new energy, Family Feud ratings go up, then up again for 7 straight years. And they say, that's the Steve Harvey story, but that's like watching someone win a marathon and only talking about the last mile. The real story starts in 1985. Steve Harvey is 28 years old. He does his first stand-up set at a club in Cleveland, Ohio. The crowd laughs. Something clicks. And then everything falls apart. He loses his job, loses his apartment, and for 3 years, 3 actual years, he lives in his car, a 1976 Ford. He showers at gas stations. He showers at public swimming pools. He writes jokes in the same car he sleeps in. Now, here's the thing most people miss about that period. It wasn't just suffering, it was training. When you have nothing, you develop something most comfortable people never build, absolute clarity about what you want. And Steve Harvey wanted one thing, to make people laugh for a living. That's it. Nothing complicated, nothing diversified, just that. And that focus, that unreasonable, almost delusional focus, becomes the foundation for everything that comes after. Okay? So he's got focus, but focus doesn't pay rent. What's the actual move? The first real move Steve Harvey made was understanding something very specific about his industry. Comedy isn't about jokes. Comedy is about trust. When an audience laughs at you, they're not just reacting to a punchline. They're telling you something deeper. They're saying, I trust your perspective. I trust how you see the world. I trust you. And trust, once built, transfers. That's the mechanic. Harvey spent years building that trust in comedy clubs, small rooms, loud rooms, rooms that barely had a stage. He refined his voice, his timing, his worldview. By the time most people knew his name, because he'd already logged thousands of hours building an audience that genuinely trusted him. That trust was the first asset, not fame, not money, trust. And everything he built afterward was just different ways of spending that trust. Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, D.L. Hewley, and Bernie Mac. 4 comedians, 1 tour, the original kings of comedy. Here's what people forget about this. At the time, black comedy tours weren't considered major commercial events. The entertainment industry largely ignored them. No major corporate backing, no mainstream press coverage, no red carpets. And the tour still grossed $18 million in its first year, then $19 million the second year. Think about that. Without the machine, without the mainstream cosign, they built the biggest comedy tour in history at that point by going directly to the audience. This is the move hiding in plain sight. Harvey didn't wait for the industry to validate him. He went around it. He understood that the audience already existed. The demand was already there. It was just being ignored by the people who control distribution. So he took the distribution into his own hands. That's not just a comedy story. That's a business lesson. When the gatekeepers ignore your market, that's the opportunity. Now, here's where the strategy gets interesting. While Harvey is doing stand-up, while he's touring, while he's building, he takes a job in radio. The Steve Harvey Morning Show launches in 2000, and on the surface, this looks like a lateral move, a comedian doing radio. Okay, fine, but look at what radio actually is. Radio is daily access, television is occasional, a show comes on once a week, you watch it, but you move on. Radio is every single morning. Same voice, same energy, same perspective, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. Do the math on what that does to a relationship with an audience. By the time someone has listened to you every morning for a year, you're not a celebrity to them anymore. You're a habit. You're part of their routine, their commute, their morning coffee. That's a completely different kind of relationship than what television builds. And Harvey understood this. Radio wasn't a step sideways. It was a long game play. He was deepening the trust he'd already built in comedy clubs, but now at scale, now with millions of people, now every single day. The audience wasn't just fans anymore. They were loyal. Steve Harvey writes a book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. The entertainment industry mostly shrugs. A comedian writing relationship advice? Sure, whatever. It sells 1.5 million copies in the first year, sits on the New York Times bestseller list for 70 weeks, then gets turned into a movie, then a sequel. Here's the thing about this that nobody talks about. The book wasn't a departure from his brand. It was a direct extension of it. Think about what Harvey had been doing for years on the radio, talking to callers, giving advice, discussing relationships, discussing what men think, discussing what women don't understand about men. He'd been road testing this content live every morning for years. By the time the book came out, the audience already believed him on this topic. They'd already heard him. They already trusted his perspective. The book wasn't a cold launch. It was a harvest. He spent years planting the seed on radio. The book was just picking the fruit. This is the move that most creators miss completely. They try to launch things cold. Harvey never launched anything cold. Every product came after years of audience priming. Okay, now we can talk about Family Feud. Harvey takes over as host. And yes, the ratings go up massively. Record-breaking 7 consecutive years of growth. First syndicated show to ever do that. But here's the real question. Why did it work so well? The easy answer is charisma. Harvey's funny, Harvey's quick, Harvey's likable. That's true. But that's not the reason. The real reason Family Feud worked is because Harvey brought a pre-built audience with him. He didn't show up to a new audience as a stranger. He showed up to millions of people who already knew him, who already listened to him every morning, who'd already read his book, who'd already trusted him for a decade. Family Feud didn't make Steve Harvey famous. Steve Harvey made Family Feud must-watch television. That's the inversion most people never see. The show was the vehicle. Harvey was the engine. And that engine had been running for 20 years before he ever stood behind that podium. Step back for a second. Look at the full picture. Stand-up comedy, a touring empire, daily radio with millions of listeners, a best-selling book, a movie franchise, a game show, a talk show, a production company, a mentorship program, a media brand. Now, here's the question. Is that a career or is that a system? Because when you look at it honestly, it's a system. Every piece feeds the other pieces. The comedy builds trust. The radio deepens it. The book monetizes it. The television amplifies it. The production company scales it. Each platform is a distribution channel. Each channel reaches a slightly different audience. Each audience feeds back into the whole. This is what people mean when they talk about media empires. But they rarely explain the mechanics clearly. Harvey built a trust machine. Input, his authentic voice and perspective. Output, loyalty at scale. And loyalty at scale converts into whatever you point it at. Books, movies, television, products, events. The format almost doesn't matter because the relationship is the real product. Here's the part of the story that actually matters most. And it's the part people rush past, those 3 years in the car. We mentioned them at the start, but let's go deeper. When Harvey talks about that period, he's not performing humility. He's not doing the rags to riches theater that celebrities do on talk shows. He's describing something that genuinely shaped how he operates when you are actually homeless, when you are actually sleeping in a car, when you are actually trying to figure out how to shower before a show so the audience doesn't know. You develop a relationship with risk that most people never develop. You stop being afraid of failure the way normal people are afraid of failure because you've already been at the bottom. You know you can survive it. And that changes everything about how you make decisions. Harvey took risks that comfortable people wouldn't take. He bet on himself before there was evidence he should. He stayed in comedy when leaving would have been the rational choice. He launched a book in a category he had no publishing credentials in. He took over a game show that had been struggling for years. Every single one of those was a calculated bet made by someone who had already lost everything and rebuilt. The homelessness wasn't just backstory, it was the source of the competitive advantage. Okay, here's the part most people miss entirely. Steve Harvey is 67 years old. He's been in the public eye for almost 4 decades, and in that entire time, he has never really changed his core message. Think about that. The jokes are different, the platforms are different, the suits are considerably more expensive, but the message is the same: hard work, faith, resilience, authentic self-expression. He has been saying the same thing in different formats to different audiences through different channels for 40 years. And here's why that matters. Consistency at scale is rare. Most people try to reinvent themselves constantly. New niche, new angle, new identity, chasing whatever's trending. Harvey did the opposite. He picked a lane and went deeper, deeper, and deeper, and deeper until he owned it. Until when people thought about self-made American success stories, his name came up automatically. That's not accident, that's positioning. And positioning, built over decades, is one of the most valuable things in media. You can't fake it, you can't buy it, you can only build it slowly, consistently, over time. Harvey built it. Here's the practical takeaway from all of this. We live in a world that constantly tells you to diversify early, to hedge, to not put all your eggs in one basket. And that advice isn't wrong, exactly, but it misses something important. Before you can diversify, you need a base, a real base, a trust base, an audience that genuinely believes in your perspective. Harvey spent his entire early career building that base, not chasing money, not chasing fame, not chasing the next platform, building trust, deepening it, reinforcing it, and then when the base was solid enough, he expanded in every direction. And because the base was real, everything he expanded into worked. That's the sequence most people reverse. They try to expand before they've built anything. They try to monetize before they've earned trust. They try to diversify before they have something worth diversifying from. Harvey's whole career is a masterclass in getting the sequence right. Build the trust first. Everything else follows. Here's what actually happened. Steve Harvey starts with nothing, less than nothing, 3 years homeless. And that experience removes his fear of failure permanently. He builds trust in comedy clubs over years of live performance. He uses touring to go directly to an audience the industry ignores. He takes radio, not for fame, but for daily access and relationship depth. He road tests ideas on radio for years before launching the book. The book isn't a cold launch, it's a harvest of pre-built trust. Family Feud works because he brings the audience with him, not the other way around. Every platform feeds every other platform. The message never changes, the format does. Consistency over decades creates positioning no competitor can buy. The real achievement isn't Family Feud, it's the trust machine he spent 40 years building. Most people look at Steve Harvey and see a game show host who got lucky, but what they're actually looking at is a man who understood one thing earlier than almost everyone. The audience is the asset, not the platform, not the show, not the network deal. The audience. Build that first, build it real, build it deep, and then it doesn't matter what platform rises or falls, what show gets canceled, what format becomes irrelevant, because you don't own the platform, you own the relationship, and nobody can take that from you. If you like breakdowns of the real strategies behind modern success stories, subscribe. There are a lot more of them.